The bell above the door made a soft ting as an old woman stepped into Diamond Bloom Jewelry Store. Her name was Harriet Johnson, and she wore a simple brown coat and a blue scarf wrapped around her silver hair. In her worn purse, she carried something precious, every dollar she had saved for 3 whole years. Today was special. Today, she would buy a pearl necklace for her granddaughter Sienna's 16th birthday. But the moment Harriet walked in, something felt wrong. The store was fancy, so fancy it made her feel small. Shiny glass cases held sparkling jewels under bright lights. The floor was so clean it looked like ice. Everything smelled like expensive perfume and leather. Behind the counter stood a young woman named Sylvia. She had perfect makeup and wore a black dress that probably cost more than Harriet's entire coat. Sylvia looked up from her phone, and her smile disappeared faster than sugar in hot tea. "Can I help you?" Sylvia asked, but her voice didn't sound helpful at all. It sounded like she was asking, "Why are you here?" Harriet smiled anyway. "Good morning. I'm looking for a pearl necklace. Something beautiful for my granddaughter." Sylvia's eyes traveled down Harriet's old coat, stopping at her worn shoes. She didn't say anything, but her face said everything. "You don't belong here. Pearls," Sylvia repeated slowly, like Harriet had said something silly. "Our pearl collection starts at $5,000. Harriet's heart beat faster, but she kept smiling. "That's all right. I've been saving. Could I see them, please?" Sylvia sighed, a long, tired sigh, and called over her shoulder, "Neil, we have a customer." A young man with slick back hair came over. Neil looked at Harriet the same way Sylvia did, like she was a stain on their perfect store. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the mall," Neil said with a fake smile. "They have nice costume jewelry there. Much more affordable." Harriet felt heat rise to her cheeks. Costume jewelry? She had real money. She had saved every extra penny from her small pension, skipped meals, walked instead of taking the bus, all to buy something real, something meaningful. "I have money," Harriet said quietly, her voice shaking just a little. "I'd like to see your pearls, please." Neil and Sylvia looked at each other. Neil rolled his eyes. Just then, a tall man in an expensive suit walked over. His name tag said Mr. Harrington, manager. He had cold blue eyes and a smile that wasn't really a smile. "Is there a problem?" Mr. Harrington asked, looking at Harriet like she was a puzzle he didn't want to solve. "This woman wants to see our pearl collection," Sylvia said, barely hiding a laugh. Mr. Harrington studied Harriet for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then he said, "Ma'am, our pieces are quite expensive. We cater to a specific clientele. Perhaps you received incorrect information about our store." The words hit Harriet like cold water. Specific clientele. That meant not you, not someone who looks like you, not someone wearing an old coat. "I understand your prices," Harriet said, her voice stronger now. "I've been planning this for years. My granddaughter—" Of course, Mr. Harrington interrupted, his voice dripping with fake kindness. "But you see, we must be careful. We've had incidents, people wasting our time. I'm sure you understand." Behind them, another customer, a woman in a fur coat, whispered to her friend, loud enough for Harriet to hear, "Can you believe they let just anyone walk in here now?" They laughed, not loud laughs, but quiet, mean ones that crawled under Harriet's skin. Harriet felt something break inside her chest. Not loudly, quietly, like a crack in a mirror you don't notice until the whole thing falls apart. She had fought for respect her whole life. She had raised 3 children alone after her husband died. She had worked 2 jobs, paid her taxes, been kind to neighbors, volunteered at church. She had lived 72 years with dignity. And now, in this bright, cold store, she was being told she didn't matter. "I see," Harriet whispered. Her hands shook as she closed her purse. "Thank you for your time." She turned toward the door, her eyes burning with tears she refused to let fall. Not here, not in front of them. As she reached for the door handle, she heard Sylvia whisper to Neil, "Did you see those shoes?" "I can't believe," she thought. Their laughter followed her out into the street. Harriet walked 3 blocks before she stopped. She leaned against a brick wall, and finally, the tears came, hot and angry and sad all at once. But as she cried, something else grew inside her, something fierce and bright and unstoppable. They thought she was nobody. They thought she was powerless. They were wrong. Harriet wiped her eyes and pulled out her phone. Her fingers found a name, Kenna Morrison, her oldest friend, the smartest woman she knew. "Kenna," Harriet said when her friend answered, "I need your help. Something happened today, and I need to do something about it." "What happened?" Kenna asked, concern filling her voice. Harriet looked back at Diamond Bloom, its fancy sign glowing in the afternoon sun. "I need you to help me buy a jewelry store," Harriet said. And she meant every word. Harriet didn't sleep that night, not even a little bit. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every terrible moment. Sylvia's cold eyes, Neil's fake smile, Mr. Harrington's words, specific clientele, the laughter that followed her out the door. But underneath the hurt, something else burned. A fire, a plan. At 6 a.m, Harriet got dressed in her best outfit, a navy blue dress she saved for church, and took the bus across town to Morrison Investment Firm. Kenna Morrison's office sat on the 15th floor of a glass building downtown. Kenna and Harriet had been friends since they were 7 years old, playing hopscotch on cracked sidewalks. Now, Kenna wore power suits and helped people buy and sell businesses. When Harriet walked in, Kenna took one look at her friend's face and knew something serious had happened. "Sit down," Kenna said, pouring tea. "Tell me everything." Harriet told her, every word, every look, every laugh. When she finished, Kenna's jaw was tight with anger. "Those people," she said quietly, "need to learn a lesson." "That's why I'm here," Harriet said. "You said once that Diamond Bloom was part of a big company. Preston Luxury Group, right?" Kenna nodded slowly, her eyes growing wide. "Yes, why? Can we buy it?" Harriet asked. "The store, can we actually buy Diamond Bloom?" Kenna set down her teacup carefully. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then she opened her laptop and started typing fast, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "Give me a minute," Kenna muttered. "I heard something a few weeks ago, a rumor. Let me check." Harriet watched her friend's face change from curious to shocked to excited. "Oh, my goodness," Kenna whispered. "Harriet, Preston Luxury Group is selling off their smaller stores. They want to focus on their flagship locations. Diamond Bloom is on the list." Harriet's heart hammered in her chest. "How much?" Kenna bit her lip. "It's not cheap. The store, the inventory, the lease on that downtown location. We're talking about a lot of money." "How much?" Harriet repeated. Kenna turned the laptop around. The number on the screen made Harriet dizzy. But Kenna wasn't finished. "Here's what we do," she said, her voice growing stronger. "You have your savings. That's a good start. My firm can help with the rest. We'll structure it as an investment. I have 3 clients who've been looking for retail opportunities. If we move fast, if we're smart about this." She looked up at Harriet, and her eyes were shining. "We can actually do this. We can buy that store." The next 5 days were the longest of Harriet's life. Kenna worked like a tornado, making calls, sending emails, meeting with lawyers and accountants. Harriet signed paper after paper, her hands shaking every time. She put every penny of her savings into the deal. 3 years of saving, gone in one signature. Her safety net, her emergency fund, everything. "Are you sure?" Kenna asked one afternoon. "Once we do this, there's no going back." Harriet thought about Sienna, her granddaughter, who deserved to grow up in a world where people treated each other with respect. She thought about every person who'd ever been judged by their appearance, dismissed because of how they looked. "I'm sure," Harriet said. On the 5th day, Kenna called. "We got it," she said. "The sale is approved. As of tomorrow morning, you own Diamond Bloom." Harriet sat down hard on her kitchen chair. She owned it. She actually owned the store that had humiliated her. That night, she barely slept again. But this time, it wasn't because of sadness. It was because of anticipation. Nervous, excited, terrifying anticipation. The next morning, Harriet stood outside Diamond Bloom at exactly 9 o'clock. When the store opened, she wore the same brown coat and blue scarf from before. In her purse, she carried something new, the legal papers proving she owned this place. Through the window, she could see Mr. Harrington arranging jewelry in a case. Sylvia was checking her phone. Neil was polishing a glass counter. They had no idea what was about to happen. Harriet took a deep breath and pushed open the door. Ting! The bell rang just like before. Sylvia looked up, and her face went from bored to annoyed in half a second. "Oh, you again." Mr. Harrington turned around. When he saw Harriet, his expression darkened. "Ma'am, I thought we made ourselves clear last week. This store isn't." "Mr. Harrington," Harriet said calmly, her voice steady and strong, "I need you to stop talking now." Something in her tone made him pause. Harriet reached into her purse, not for money this time, but for papers. Official papers with fancy letterhead and legal stamps. "My name is Harriet Johnson," she said, walking forward slowly. "And as of this morning, I am the new owner of Diamond Bloom." The silence that followed was so complete, you could hear a pin drop on the polished floor. Sylvia's phone clattered to the counter. Neil's mouth fell open like a fish. Mr. Harrington went pale, actually pale, like all the blood had drained from his face. That's not possible," Mr. Harrington stammered. "It's very possible," Harriet said. She placed the papers on the counter. "Preston Luxury Group sold this location. I bought it. These documents prove it. You can call the corporate office if you'd like. They'll confirm everything." Mr. Harrington grabbed the papers with shaking hands. His eyes raced across the words, and with each line he read, his face fell further. "This can't be. We weren't told. Nobody said." "Nobody told you," Harriet said quietly, "because it wasn't your business to know. It was mine." Neil found his voice. "This is crazy. You can't just—" "I can," Harriet interrupted, her voice kind but firm. "And I did. Now, we need to have a conversation. All of us." She looked at each of them. Mr. Harrington in his expensive suit, Sylvia with her perfect makeup, Neil with his slick back hair. "Last week, I came here as a customer," Harriet said. "I had money. I had a dream. I wanted to buy my granddaughter something special. And you know what you did? You judged me. You laughed at me. You made me feel small and worthless." Sylvia looked at the floor. Neil shifted uncomfortably. "You decided I wasn't good enough for your store," Harriet continued. "Well, guess what? Now I decide who's good enough to work here." Mr. Harrington's face went from pale to red. "You can't fire us. We have contracts. We have rights." "You do," Harriet agreed, "and I've read them. All of them. According to those contracts, I can terminate employment for cause. And treating customers with disrespect, that's cause." She let that sink in. "So here's what's going to happen," Harriet said. "Mr. Harrington, Sylvia, Neil, you're fired. Effective immediately." The words hung in the air like thunder. Mr. Harrington's face turned from red to purple. "This is outrageous. You can't." "I can," Harriet said firmly. "And I just did. Please collect your personal belongings and leave." Sylvia's eyes filled with tears, but they weren't sad tears. They were angry ones. "This is because of your hurt feelings? That's so petty." Harriet shook her head slowly. "No, Sylvia. This is because you forgot something important. Every person who walks through that door deserves respect. Rich or poor, young or old, fancy coat or simple one. Everyone deserves kindness. You forgot that. And in a store that's supposed to celebrate special moments, that's unforgivable." Neil grabbed his jacket from the back room, his face tight with anger. As he stormed past Harriet, he muttered, "You'll run this place into ground in a month." Harriet smiled, a small, sad smile. "Maybe, but at least I'll do it with kindness." One by one, they left. Mr. Harrington slammed the door, so hard the bell jangled wildly. Then silence. Harriet stood alone in Diamond Bloom, surrounded by sparkling jewels and shining cases. The store that had made her feel so small now belonged to her. She took a deep breath and got to work. The next morning, Harriet arrived at 6 o'clock with Kenna and a team of helpers. They hung a big sign on the door. Closed for renovation, reopening soon with a new heart. For 2 weeks, they transformed everything. Harriet didn't change the jewels. They were still beautiful, but she changed how the store felt. She removed the 2 bright lights that made everything look cold and added warm, golden ones that made the store feel like a hug. She replaced the icy white walls with soft cream colors. She brought in comfortable chairs where tired customers could sit. Most importantly, she created a new section, treasures for every budget. Here, beautiful pieces started at just $200. Simple silver necklaces, delicate birthstone rings, small pearl earrings that sparkle with meaning, not just money. Every moment deserves to be celebrated, Harriet told Kenna. Not just rich people's moments. Everyone's moments. Harriet hired new staff carefully. She interviewed 20 people and chose 3. Jade, a young woman who'd worked 2 jobs to pay for college. Henry, a retired teacher who loved helping people. And Maria, a grandmother like herself who understood what it meant to save for something special. Here's the only rule, Harriet told them on their first day. Treat every customer like they're your family. Look at their eyes, not their wallet. Listen to their story, not their bank account. Can you do that? All 3 nodded, their faces serious and sincere. Good, Harriet said, smiling. Then let's open our doors. The grand reopening was magical. Customers flooded in, curious about the changes. Many were nervous at first. Diamond Bloom had a reputation for being snooty. But that reputation died the moment they stepped inside. Welcome to Diamond Bloom. Jade called out warmly to every person who entered. How could we help you celebrate today? A teenage boy came in, clutching crumpled bills in his sweaty hand. I need a ring, he stammered, for my girlfriend, but I only have $80. In the old Diamond Bloom, he would have been shown the door, but Henry walked over with a kind smile. $80? That's perfect. Come with me. I know exactly what you need. He showed the boy a simple silver ring with a tiny diamond chip. Nothing fancy. But when Henry explained how the light caught the stone, how love wasn't measured in carats but in care, the boy's eyes lit up. It's perfect, the boy whispered. She'll love it. Watching from across the store, Harriet's eyes grew misty. A middle-aged couple came in next, looking nervous. We're renewing our vows, the wife explained quietly. We don't have much money, but we want new wedding bands. Something simple. Maria took their hands, actually held them, and said, 30 years together? That's not simple. That's extraordinary. Let's find something extraordinary for you. She showed them matching silver bands with tiny engravings inside. Forever starts today. The couple cried happy tears as they purchased them. This was what Harriet had dreamed of. Not just a store, but a place where moments mattered more than money. If you're loving Harriet's story of courage and justice, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs inspiration today, and subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. One afternoon, 3 weeks after the reopening, a familiar face walked through the door. It was a woman in a fur coat, the one who'd laughed at Harriet that terrible day. She stopped short when she saw Harriet behind the counter. You, the woman said, her face going pale. You're the owner? Harriet nodded calmly. I am. Welcome to Diamond Bloom. How can I help you today? The woman looked around the transformed store, at the warm lights, the comfortable chairs, the smiling staff, the customers of all ages and backgrounds browsing happily. The woman started, then stopped. Her face crumbled. I'm so sorry. What I said that day, the way I laughed, it was cruel. I was cruel. Harriet studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled, a real smile. Apology accepted. Now, are you looking for anything special today? The woman's eyes filled with grateful tears. My daughter's graduating college. I want to get her something meaningful. But I don't want anything too expensive. I want something with heart. Then you've come to the right place, Harriet said. She personally helped the woman choose a simple gold locket. Inside, they placed a tiny photo of the daughter as a baby. "She'll treasure this forever," the woman said softly. "Thank you. Really." Finally, one sunny Saturday, Harriet closed the store early. She flipped a sign to "Close for private event" and waited. At 3 o'clock, the door opened, and Sienna walked in, Harriet's beautiful 16-year-old granddaughter, with her bright smile and curious eyes. "Grandma?" Sienna said, looking around in confusion. "Why are we here? And why is the store closed?" Harriet took her granddaughter's hand and led her to the pearl necklace display. There, in the center, was the most beautiful strand of pearl Sienna had ever seen. Each pearl glowed softly, like little moons, connected by delicate silver links. "This," Harriet said, her voice thick with emotion, "is what I came to buy for you weeks ago. But they wouldn't sell it to me. They said I wasn't good enough." Sienna's eyes went wide. "Grandma, no." "But that's not the end of the story," Harriet continued, smiling. "Because sometimes, when people try to make you small, you grow bigger instead. I bought this entire store, Sienna. I bought it so I could change it. So every grandmother, every parent, every person who wants to celebrate someone they love can walk in here and feel welcome." She lifted the pearl necklace and fastened it around Sienna's neck. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," Harriet whispered. "Never let anyone make you feel less than extraordinary." Sienna threw her arms around her grandmother and cried happy tears. "I love you so much, Grandma. You're my hero." Through the window, people walking by stopped to look at the grandmother and granddaughter hugging in the jewelry store. Some smiled, some wiped their eyes. And above them, the new sign Harriet had commissioned glowed in the afternoon sun. "Diamond Bloom, where everyone is welcome." Harriet proved that dignity cannot be bought, but it can be given. She transformed a place of judgment into a place of joy. And every day, Diamond Bloom reminds the world that respect isn't about what you wear or what you have. It's about remembering that every person, every moment, and every dream matters. If Harriet's story touched your heart, smash that like button. Share this story with your friends and family. And subscribe to hear more inspiring tales of courage, justice, and love. Drop a comment below telling us what you would do in Harriet's shoes.